GM. Emily, welcome everyone. We're just starting our first, I think, non-technical workshop after a few very technical weeks. This is our last week of the AI Agent Founder School, and we are today with another workshop with the awesome Emily. Emily, thank you for being with us. How are you doing?
Thanks so much for having me, Crypto Fede. I've never called you that. I'm excited
Never,
to be
no.
here. I'm also excited to finally learn. Is it DeFi or DeFi or DeFi AI? I've
I'm
never
ready
heard
to end the
anyone say it.
discussion,
So
Emily. I'm ready to end it. It's DeFAI. So like almost like DeFi, but DeFAI. I'm just gonna use that. I'm
DeFi
telling you, yeah.
AI? DeFi AI? All right, that's it. I
It's
got my answers. We can end the stream.
that's all we had for today. So thank you for watching, everyone. Goodbye. But in all seriousness, like welcome everyone. If you haven't been watching, my name is Fede or Crypto Fede on Chain. I'm head of the Roulette Mode, and here we have Emily to talk today about how to get users, marketing in Web3, and all this craziness that developers hate, but we really need. Emily, do you want to tell us a little bit about what do you do? How did you get here? A little bit of your backstory.
Yeah, sure. I've always been a marketer. So I've been full-time in crypto marketing the last 3.5 years here at Hype, which is a crypto native marketing agency. We do a lot of launches and campaigns for infra, protocols, DeFi. But before that, I was full-time 5 years in apps, mobile apps, games, supplements, consumer product goods, a lot of performance marketing, and a lot of digital marketing. This included channels anywhere from paid ads, organic, earned, retail. Most of my bread and butter and most of my career was in the performance marketing side, but then that scaled into understanding all of the different channels that attribute to revenue. So it was quite a shift to go from post product market fit or a working product into crypto the last 3.5 years. But I think there's a lot of fundamentals that can be transferred over. And for this presentation, I actually did, since I know it's a lot of AI agents and people building in DeFi, 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 I'm going to call it DeFi. Um, I know that there's a bit more of a consumer focused positioning. So I'm excited to share some of what I know and hopefully it's relevant to builders.
I think for sure it will be already your first, like your opening, has so much information about marketing, different strategies, and talking about like post product market fit, which is something that crypto, I think, does not know yet. But yeah, super, super interesting and amazing to have you here. I know a bunch of builders from the founder school are really excited to get this because they were telling me usually what devs have is they know how to build stuff. Sometimes they know what to build. They have a little problem with MVP scoping and figuring out what users want. But then they're like, what is the next step? I created my Twitter account. I have the Discord community, but nobody's joining. Nobody really cares about what I'm building. So like, how do I do that? So it's going to be great listening to you today. We have Paco asking, would you call your agents Emilei or Fedei? I think both names are horrible, Paco, but thank you for your contribution. Thank you very much. So without further ado, I will just let you go straight into the workshop. Just letting you know, I'll probably hop in with a few questions, and if anyone in the chat has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll make sure you'll get an answer. So let's get your screen up here, and the floor is all yours.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to talk through how to make people actually care because me, as someone who is non-technical, I always dream of how can I build an app to solve one of my problems. And I imagine that's kind of the first principles where builders come from. And then once you have that app built, it's like, how do I actually get attention and awareness to this app? So I titled this How to Get Your First User because I imagine that's very important. Um, did Fede drop off? All right, we're gonna keep going without him.
No,
Oh,
I'm here. I'm just here.
okay.
I don't wanna be here just saying yes all the time, and I want to give you the spotlight. So I'll just drop off
Oh, I
and come in
see.
all the time. Yeah, I'll be
Your
around.
your your nods were very comforting, but I will do this alone and persevere. Okay, so I think actually one of my first lessons that I want to start with, or not even lessons, but just tips, is this copy of how to get your first user. So I use a base template presentation that I do for builders in infra and ecosystems, and it's called Crypto Marketing and Fundamentals. But if you think about that, it doesn't really tell you the benefit or what it's about. So later on, I did touch a little bit on consumer psychology and how to use that when you are reaching out to possible users to get them to care and also hopefully convert. So marketing can mean so many different things, and these are all the different activations you can do, different channels you could be using, and the whole purpose of this is to simplify it and make it less daunting and less scary. So my dream and my hope and wish is that at the end of this, the outcome you leave is having some more confidence and plans on how to get your first users and also how to grow from there. So what we're going to cover is what is a marketing strategy, how do you design it? Um, my hope with this is that it gives you a framework that if you're a developer or a builder that hasn't done marketing actively before, you have some type of guidelines to be as effective as possible. I also included an example, and I'll actually talk about getting your first user. So when you're doing that first outreach, what are ways to make your offer or your product as attractive as possible? And then just some general, yeah, measurement tips because when you are building, it's a process and there are multiple feedback loops that you can measure. So I already did an intro. I'm going to skip past this. The only thing you need to know is I spend way too much time on Twitter. And let's go straight into what is a marketing strategy. I always like to start with what is not a marketing strategy. So what it's not on its own. And some of these are more relevant if you're in the crypto space where we see a lot of logo x logo partnership announcements. We might see people now starting TikTok pages or running AI agent hackathons. Yapping on X is also not a marketing strategy, or launching a brand mascot, plus many other tactics. All of these are tactics, and they are things that could be done that get you attention effectively. But a marketing strategy is truly a combination of why you're doing what you do. So why did you build what you do, what you built, and what does it do? What is it? Who are you targeting, and how do you reach them? So this slide is a little bit busy, but I'd like to walk everyone through this. So we just talked about what a marketing strategy is not. And the reason I want to make that discernment is because oftentimes we get tactics mixed up with the general marketing strategy, where tactics are just a small piece of that. So ultimately, a marketing strategy is a plan on how to achieve certain goals, and it defines why it matters. So what are you building in this context? I saw a few AI agents that help save time, help cut through the noise, help me make money. Who does it matter to? So obviously, if I'm a crypto trader or if I am on chain already, maybe I am trading on Base or Solana, and maybe there's a faster way to save time. And if you're able to communicate that to me through your narratives and messaging, then that's a way you can influence me to get me to care. And how's that plan executed? So where are you reaching me? What channels are you using? I may be on it. I definitely am on X, but maybe I get my information from other places on the internet. What is your approach to reaching out to me? How long should be how long is the timing and length of your tests, experiments, or your campaigns? And what tactics are you using? So that's kind of a compilation of what a marketing strategy looks like on the right. And Fede is popping back in. Hola.
Yes, yeah, I'm gonna be popping back in like all the time. I'm listening carefully. This what that you're mentioning, it's amazing for the last task that the builders have, which is their demo. They have 5 minutes to present the video explaining the idea, showing how it works, and explaining why we should care. So like I think this sums up very well what should be in that video is like you need to understand who you're targeting, what you're doing, what your narrative is, and how is everything's going to get executed, and explain like all I know. Explaining something in less than like 3 minutes or 5 minutes is really hard. That is the point. It's like you will have to work for many hours to just think of that short video to explain everything. So this is amazing advice.
Awesome. We'll actually touch through how to make that narrative or message as short as possible and straight to the point later on. So let me start with an example. How do we market strategically? This is a framework I like to use a lot. And I look at it as a pyramid where you really want to start on the top with positioning and then go down. So we'll go through this one by one. And what this actually means is with positioning, some questions to ask yourself is why does your AI agent or AI app or anything you're building, why does it deserve to exist? Which is kind of a brutally honest question. But you as a developer or builder, you invested your own resources, your time into doing this thing. And ultimately, how you communicate that why to other people is part of your marketing strategy and your growth strategy. You also might have other competitors. So, how are you solving these problems that you set off to solve better than them? And why does that timing matter now? So, maybe with timing, maybe now is a time where there's enough liquidity or enough opportunities in the market, or there's just way too much noise where this confluence of AI and AI agents helping us automate our lives a little bit. Now, maybe that's the perfect timing to release this to the market. For audiences, most people know what this means, but it's really who are your top customers, who are your top prospective customers, and what problems do they have that you can solve. Narratives and messaging is how do you communicate to them? So, what are things that they must know to realize that your product can solve their problem? And on the bottom, this is really where we talked about tactics earlier, but channels, tactics, content, where do you reach them and how? Who can you involve? What are the best ways to get their attention and also retain them? So I am going to use Replit as an example. And typically for my examples with this presentation, I use like a crypto protocol or ecosystem. But since this is a DeFi edition, I'm going to use an AI app, and Replit is quite big. I think they actually just launched a year ago, but they're massive now. So if you look at their positioning, a positioning statement is a straightforward, no fluff statement of who you are. It's the what, the how, and the why, ultimately your differentiation. This tagline up here, idea to app fast, this is their tagline. And underneath, you can actually see their positioning statement: create beautiful, modern web applications at the speed of thought, describe what you need, and Replit's AI agent builds it for you. So right off the bat, if someone were to tell me this, I very quickly understand what Replit is. And then also visually, they visually show me how it works. So they're anchoring to ChatGPT and Claude and some of these AI tools that have just proliferated the last few years. And it's very clear that, okay, I can just type whatever I want to build and start building. They also give you examples as well. So the main thing I want to highlight though is this positioning statement. And to get there, it really comes down to asking yourself those questions and deeply understanding what problems you're trying to solve. Now, for audiences, this is just a few examples. Replit is really, really big, and I don't know their exact 0 to 1 origin story. I'm sure you can find it from one of the interviews that the CEO has done. And that's actually a channel that they use is if you go on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, there's quite a few interviews that he has done. But it's very clear to me that they're targeting developers. And just like a quick Google search, you can see that when you see the search engine result for Replit, it has a page just for C++ or Python. So it's very clearly targeting developers or maybe indie builders or hackers that want to speed up their process. Some places that I saw them reaching these people were on Product Hunt as well as Hacker News, which I think are websites that if you're a developer or builder, you might peruse more often than a marketer like me. Now, some questions to ask to help define your audiences. What do they struggle with? And really digging into that is a more intrinsic internal question. So maybe in this case, it's like, okay, it's really expensive to build apps, or it takes a lot of time to build an MVP. So maybe it's truly about efficiency and speed. Wondering and asking why over and over and over again can help you get to that core problem and help you nail your positioning statement. I did include this next question about chains and ecosystems in case your AI agent is on mode as well as other ecosystems that already positions or gives you an idea of where you can reach your target audience. So maybe it's other people trading on mode or interacting with mode. What are they doing on chain? So if your AI agent is about trading, saving money or trading memes, maybe understanding and looking for meme traders on mode is helpful for you. I'd like to also ask psychographic questions, which are kind of the last three here. So what do these people read? What do they spend time online doing? Who do they listen to? This could be podcasts, this could be music, this could be YouTube videos, this could be where do they go when they go outside? Like really understanding and thinking through someone's lifestyle is also a very clear way to understand how you can reach them. We hopefully are sleeping 8 hours a night, maybe 6 if you're up hacking too long. But time is very limited and there's only so many things we can do every day. So really thinking about your customer archetype or user in this light will help you frame exactly where to reach them. What are they motivated by? So I'll touch on consumer and behavior psychology a little bit later on, because something that I notice developers and people who are technical have an issue doing. You guys are amazing at building, but when it comes to showing what you built to the world, you often talk in features versus benefits. So we'll touch a little bit on what deep human motivations are. There's anywhere from 7 to 8. And then who do they trust? So in crypto marketing, you see this term KOLs or influencers thrown out a lot. And the idea is to influence someone's behavior and get them to learn about your product, your chain, your protocol, and hopefully also acquire and retain them because you're reaching them through someone that they see as an authority figure or someone that they trust. So thinking about maybe who they read, like what podcasters they listen to or what pages they follow, these are all really good questions to ask when you're thinking about who would your top users be and where to find them. So hopefully by then you have an idea, right? And maybe you have a few different types of audiences and all of this is an experiment of reaching out to them and seeing how they react and how they respond back to you. Now, what do you actually say when you reach out to them? So this is where narratives and messaging are really important. And we're still using Replit as an example. They have changed over the last year, right? They've grown a ton and their positioning as well as their core messages have changed as product features have built out. So I just want to call that out because you're probably still very early stage in whatever you're building. So as your feature set and benefits your users expand, your messages and narratives may as well. But one thing that they do really well here is they have a consistency in what they do say once it's nailed, and they also have a very consistent visual identity. So this idea to app fast, you see it on their Twitter, you'll see it on their YouTube, you'll see it on their website. Even on their YouTube, they have another way of saying this tagline: from idea to software in 60 seconds. And you also see it here again in their Twitter bio: idea to app fast. They also have events, they have merch, they have a Facebook group. All of this has the same tagline and same messaging. Hola, Fede.
Popping in again. Hola. This is like, it's amazing because like you haven't been following the builders through the founder school, and their first task was submit a 3-minute video pitching your idea, right? Which some were really great, some maybe not so much. It's fine. The idea is to improve over time. And everyone was super afraid because they thought that video pitching their idea would like get it written in stone, and they wouldn't be able to change whatever they said in there that they were going to do. And a bunch of them were like, hey, we just found out that this is not so great and we want to do this, can we pivot? So like, a little question for you is it good to pivot? Is it okay to change a bit the narrative? Is it okay to change a bit the idea, the product, and yeah, just change and pivot? Startups do it a lot. So is it good, is it bad? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think your main positioning statement shouldn't be changed so much, and it's really tied to your mission, right? So whatever your mission is, that's kind of the macro problem you're solving. But in terms of the messaging, that can change over time as you evolve. And the way to think about it is your brand is kind of like an entity. It's like a person. And who Fede was when he was 16 or 12 is probably very different than how he is now when he's, what are you, 16 and a half? I'm not sure. I'm kidding. But you get the point.
28.
There's a there's an evolution. But at the same time, don't overdo it. And we'll talk about this a little bit later with you can track with feedback loops as your product or your brand grows. And what is the most confusing is when so many people know who you are and you do a complete rebrand. But in the beginning, when you're still fairly new, it's all an experiment. So you can test things, see how people react to it, and adjust based off that. It's very much an evolution. And your brand is growing with your audience. So brand is really what people think of when they think of you. Like when I think of Apple, there's certain words or feelings that come to mind. So that brand can be set by you, but it's actually turns into a belief by who your customers are. And being in this very early stage, a lot of it is experimentation.
That makes total sense. Awesome. Popping off again. I'll be
Cool.
back. I promise.
Okay. Okay. Ciao. Okay, so this last thing is on channels, tactics, and content. Um, I just like collated a ton of random screenshots that Replit has done, and this is just a small fraction of what they've done. They're also really big. So as they've grown, they've tested other forms of content. The CEO, as you can see here, he's hopped on to other podcasts or other people's channels to also spread the message of Replit or his story. And the whole idea of this is hopefully with your marketing plan, you start with one place, you make a bet. Like marketing is you take a bet and you see how the reaction is. And then from there, you can either double down, change it, or scale. But this is an example to show you that, look, they're live on YouTube, they're making content there, they're already on Twitter, you saw that, they're on Hacker News, Product Hunt. They also have a communities page where they created kind of like a marketplace where people who are like me have no coding experience. I can connect with other people that can help me build something on Replit. And they also have in-person events. So this is one they did in SF in New York City for builders. All of this is just to show you that there's many different things that you can be doing, many different forms of mediums you can reach people or reach out to people with, and different tactics. And the best thing about digital marketing is every single one of these things can be tracked. So you can actually measure what is effective, what is ineffective, and make a very logical, objective decision. Do we continue doing this? Do we change something? Do we scale this? And I think that is Probably similar. I don't know. I'm not a developer, but that might be similar to how you do product sprints or code your product. I'm not sure. Um, okay, so this is a super, super, super heavy slide, and I will just skim through it, but feel free to take a screenshot. So how do you put this all together? Hopefully by now you have kind of a clear positioning statement of how you're going to go out into the world, like who you are, why you matter. You have some ideas of what audiences you want to reach and where they live online or maybe in real life. You have some ideas on narratives and messaging that you'll connect to them with. And then you also maybe have like one or two channels you want to test out on, a content piece, or different tactics. So if you're still wanting some extra information on how to define that strategy, it's so important to understand where you sit relative to your competitors, right? Or other people that are adjacent. Um, I'll give you a very recent example. I recently built my own GPT just with OpenAI. I scraped my complete X, I uploaded it to GPT, and I prompted a bot where people can talk with Emily Lai AI, which is in my last name, and ask her marketing questions or ask it marketing questions, and I can interface with myself. And I shared that on Twitter. And I had 4 DMs of people saying, "Oh, we can build an AI agent for you." So you just know right off the bat, there's other people in this space. When you're thinking about how to go to market, it's really important to understand where you fit in in the space of your competitors, in the category, and in the industry. So some things you can do, some frameworks you can use for doing research is looking at your competitors' community. In this case, when it's not an ecosystem, it could be their actual customers. So looking at product reviews, looking at what people say about them on Reddit or on forums, looking at negative and positive sentiment on YouTube, what reviewers are saying. You can also look at their socials. So understanding what people, how they show up on socials, what they post, their top performing content, how active they are, what socials do they even exist on. It may not always be Twitter. And then you can also look them up on their website. So something that I didn't show in the screenshot, but when I was looking up Replit, I just Googled Replit to see how they position themselves on Google. And typically the metadata. So when you search Replit, you will see like subtext. Typically that's going to be their positioning statement. You'll often see this with Web2 companies that are pretty established. So just Googling them is a great way to understand how they position themselves. And obviously going on the website, experiencing the flow for yourself, using the product, looking at the onboarding, seeing if their positioning statement actually matches the product. You can use all of this into your research and hopefully make this marketing strategy a lot more robust. Okay, so I'm going to recap. Like, hopefully by now you have some tools or some frameworks to understand your positioning statement and why you should exist, why you're building what you're building, what it even is, who it should matter to, and how you will reach them. So let's actually talk about how to get your first user. And again, if you remember that very first slide of all the different marketing functions you can do and different channels, I know it can be feel very complicated and daunting. I think when you're building a consumer and the fact that we're all so connected online, it actually makes it a little bit easier to go straight to the source. So what I mean by that is this is an example by Alan from Pump.Fun. It's a tweet he made last year where he admitted that he cold DM'd 3,000 people. And I just want to pause here and say, it doesn't mean you have to do this on X. Maybe your user lives on Reddit. Maybe your user lives in some developer forum. Maybe they live on, maybe the best way to reach them is via some type of influencer developer on YouTube. When you are devising your marketing strategy, you're essentially taking a risk or making a bet based off all of the research you have. But this is just an example of a way that I find extremely effective. It's just cold DMing. And ultimately, the reason you want to talk to users is obviously you want to get customers, right? But when you're very early stage, rather than making assumptions yourself and assuming that the problem that you set off to solve is actually a problem, you can actually get it from other people and get that problem validated. So talking to users allows you to validate ideas and assumptions. You can see how they react. And this is actually going to be a continual cycle. The scale of it just changes. So I really like to just use this diagram, which is from the Lean Startup. And really, like when you're building, and I'm not saying this as a builder or someone that is technical or has coded, but as someone that has uh, started my own startups, failed, started my own e-commerce stores or blogs, you do need to go step by step. So I think this is what Fede was referencing earlier, that things can change over time. And you always want to start with how do you get your first user to your 10th user, to your 100th, and your product and your USPs and your benefits will evolve, and that evolution is actually a relationship with your users and your customers. So something that I thought was really, really important to include are features versus benefits. And I think this is going to be super helpful in both demo day as well as when you actually do your outreach, whether that is doing some type of social media campaign or cold DMs, or if you're making content. Okay, so let me actually see. Let's use Apple as an example first. If you look at an Apple page, so Apple is a really established brand, right? Like we all have certain emotions and feelings and thoughts when we think of Apple based on decades of products they've built, campaigns they put out, and also probably us using their own products or our friends using their products. On the left here, these are features. And the reason why I think it's so important to discern and talk about how to position features versus benefits is because oftentimes I see a lot of developers talking about features versus why it actually matters to the end user. And a really common example in crypto marketing or with ecosystems is talking about TPS, talking about how many blocks can fit. These things could matter to developers if that's who you're targeting in that moment, but to retail, none of that actually matters. So on the left here, if you look, Apple does include uh, features and the technical specifications of each of their products. So you'll know things like, okay, what is the chip? What is the camera megapixels? How long is the battery life? But if you go through their website or go through their campaigns, they're really trying to emotionally storytell why someone should care. So you can see things like tools that help you write, focus, and communicate. This is a benefit. Or boosting my productivity is a benefit. Expressing myself visually is a benefit. And then you can also see different ways if you go on their website with how they storytell that. So let's go back to this less pretty slide here. And this is kind of what I call the so what tree, where let's say the product is a fine art print. The feature is it's extra large in size. And then you just keep asking, so what? Like, why does that matter? And then you can keep going down to the core benefit. So if you take this exercise, it's like, okay, because it's extra large, the print will be the focal point of any room. Okay, so what? Like, why does that matter? Why should people care? Because it's the focal point, the print will get my guest's attention. Why does that matter? Because it gets their attention, they're going to ask me questions about it and it'll be a conversation piece. Okay, why does that matter? Because it's a conversation piece, I'll be able to speak intelligently about it. So I'll show up as I don't know, like a pretentious fine art expert, I guess, is what this is saying. And then you can keep going. Um, so now, because I'm an authority, I'll be interesting to my guests. So they'll be impressed by my knowledge and sophistication. And this right here is a very deep human behavior and need, right? To be liked, to be admired, to feel some type of belonging. So everything we do, literally every action has some type of core connection to our emotions. So this is from a copywriting book. I highly recommend it to everyone, whether you're a builder or marketer or want to share an idea with the world. It's called Cashvertising. This is one of the old school books I read back in Hi Phil. Yeah, communicate features, not core benefits. Ditto that. This is one of the core books that I read when I was doing a lot of direct response, where when we're running paid ads and trying to capture people's attention, with a really fast Facebook ad or Instagram ad and they're just like scrolling nonstop, we only have 1 second to really capture their attention and explain why they should stop, why they should care, why they should click on the website, why they should buy. So there's really just like these are the 8 desires that are biologically programmed into every human. And it comes down to survival. Like we need water, we need food. Hola, Fede.
Hola, I want to be a little bit smart here because I just know the name. this comes from the Maslow pyramid, right? Like the whole thing of like, okay, once the humans have like their bases covered, you start looking for other things, and it's crazy to see that you bring this up. Everything that you've mentioned about like builders and how they promote like features instead of like benefits, I've seen it so much, especially with like early builders, where they tell me, oh yeah, you have this bonding curve and all these crazy mechanisms, and we do this in Web3 a lot, where we explain the text so much, and I'm like, bro, I get you, but you know what? I've been in crypto for 5 years. I work here full time. I'm like full time degen. I'm very much into context, and I love that. So for me, that is a great pitch. But for 95% of the other people or the users that are gonna use what you're trying to sell, you need to explain why they should care with benefits. It's like what is good for them, not because how it's implemented or built or exactly what you're doing, but rather the goals that you're achieving, the benefits for the user, and I think this these last few slides like really show that. That's awesome to hear.
Awesome. Yeah, it's somewhat related to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I would say it's actually a level deeper, and it's the core emotions and needs that every human has. And what I mean by that is if you look at Maslow, I don't have it here, but if you look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the most basic one is just getting basic needs met, which is like water, food, shelter. And at the very top, it's like I think enlightenment or some type of purpose and meaning in life. And the concept of it is we need like a roof over our heads, we need water, but we ultimately need these things to feel this core emotion or need of safety. So you might feel safety in different ways, but these things are really kind of the ultimate biologically programmed needs that we each have. And it's a little bit, I would say it's a little bit abstracted from what your benefit would be. So let me go back to here, for example, like exploring new tools or boosting my productivity. The benefit to me is like, oh, I save time. I'm better at what I do. And maybe because I'm better at what I do, I actually am meeting this need of winning or appearing cool at whatever I do or social approval, or maybe I get a promotion and then that allows me to afford more comfortable living conditions. So I think a really good example too is in crypto marketing. You see a lot of FOMO and you see a lot of community building. And a lot of that has to do with one, you want to make sure that you're caught up with everyone else, with the news, with the latest alpha. And we feel this sense of FOMO or fear of missing out, and you don't want to feel that. It feels really uncomfortable when everyone else knows something you don't. And typically that's a ticker or some type of secret group or something that feels very exclusive and elusive. So in crypto marketing, you'll, if you catch how you feel about certain things and why you do things like ape into that pumped up fun coin, or why you just like click on buy without reading anything about the website or understanding the team, it's coming from one of these biologically programmed desires and these core emotions you have. So yeah, I think you nailed it though, Fede. It's really about how do we communicate with benefits over features? And if you think about what benefits are, they help you make a transformation in your life, and that transformation is connected to some type of core need or emotion you have. So yeah, feel free to screenshot this.
I
Yeah,
like what Mr. B is saying because I've thought of this so many times. Like Nvidia with their GPUs, and every GPU out there is like, oh yeah, the EVGA GeForce GTX 960. It's like it's really hard to even pronounce, right? And you have to go read some blog to understand what that uh, graphic card can get you, and what it needs to go with the motherboard and the processor and a bunch of things. And I think like tech in general has this kind of problem where like naming and everything is horrible. That's what I like really take from Apple is like they know how to make really complex things, and they complicate engineers' lives to make the users' lives easier, right? So yeah, that's awesome.
for
And
sure.
yeah, well, right after I signed two transactions without reading anything, yeah, we're all the same. We're all in the trenches
Yeah.
here, and yeah.
I do that too. I completely, you can completely convert me and get me if you tell me like, hey, you're gonna miss out on generational wealth. I will so ape in and then I will miss out on generational wealth again because I'm either too late or I got rugged. So this applies to me as well, even as a marketer who knows what's happening. Um, that's crazy about the NVIDIA cards because obviously I'm not in the target market. So I didn't even know all of this nomenclature and ways that they position their product. But one thing I will say is it's not that features are not important. Um, it's that it's how you storytell. So when somebody goes on your website, let's just like run it back to Replit, that first impression is so important. And that first impression can happen on the website, it can happen on an ad, it can happen on a social campaign, it can happen on a cold DM. And I didn't screenshot the whole page, but you'll see a very easy to understand tagline, and you'll see the benefits through their positioning statement. And then you'll also see like, I think there's logos just to show authority and build trust. So it is all storytelling. And if you scroll down further, you'll see features of maybe like how it works. Um, so it's not that it's not important. It's just you need to make sure you prioritize benefits. All right. So this is actually an example of some of the cold DMs I get. I get a lot of cold DMs, and this is from my experiment when I launched my own little AI agent via custom GPT. You can see on the left, somebody just was like, "Hey, we have this tool. It's automating a lot of what you do as a person on day-to-day basis, but it's also better at collating and analyzing information like never before. We're working with so and so. We're refining the roadmap." So here's the thing. I get hit with a lot of messages. If this was the only one I ever got, maybe I'd be like okay, like show it to me. And I actually did reply. I try to reply to everyone as long as it's like a nice, concise, intentional message, but I can't always because I have like, I'm a community moderator now. And I also do help out with, I do run hype on the side with my team. So I don't have a lot of time, but you can see here I did reply. And if this person just sent me a call to action and was like, hey, check it out, I wouldn't have had to ask this question. And I was also just keeping it real. I was like, by the way, you're the fourth person to message me about this. Compare this to the right. I'm gonna shout them out because I thought what they did was really cool. This is Gattaca. I might be saying it wrong, but they actually showed me their product and cold DM'd me just via the product. So they showed me the benefits by actually making an AI agent of me right away. And they were just like, here, what do you think? I gave them feedback. They got my attention. So there's ways that you can craft your story when you make that first impression. And that's something I encourage all of you to do. If you are running some type of AI agent that helps me save time or make money, tell me how much money I can make. Tell me what your past users or your experiments have done. Give me an actual range of yield or ROI. Tell me how much time it will help me save. Or just like show me visually like this person or this company has. So that's just some tips that I have, and it is tying back to kind of the benefits versus features, and also the basic human desires and emotions. And the last thing I want to talk about is, let's say you get your first customer, right? Or your first user, and hopefully you're now in a conversation with them, hearing out what issues they have, what they don't like, and building for this person. Hopefully you're doing this and you're starting to get more and more users that are interested. Now you can actually scale that. And as you scale, something that I think is helpful for builders and developers to know is literally everything can be tracked online. So on socials, or if you're going to build a community or show up on a forum, anytime you put something out in the world, you can see how people react to it. If nobody is reacting to it, maybe it's the wrong message, or maybe you just didn't reach the right people, or there is no awareness at all and you need to change the strategy. But let's say that they are reacting to it and they're giving you feedback. You can actually adjust your product and then show it to them again. Same thing with the website. If you have an app or a mobile app, or even like a mobile app on like the App Store, all of these things can be tracked, and you can see, are people downloading it? Are they clicking on start? Are they reaching out to you? And based off this, you can actually adjust everything. And then this last thing is on-chain and product. If you do have some on-chain component, as you know, everything on-chain is typically transparent unless you're in ZK and you're privacy first. But if you're not on-chain, there's also product analytics. So you can track things like retention, how many DAUs, like for Replit, they're probably testing how many prompts people do per account, or how much time is spent, or times are revisiting the product, or how many apps they actually. So all of these things are feedback loops that you can refine, you can track and use to refine your strategy and how you build over time. But it always starts with getting that first user. So remember to think of a marketing strategy, position your product, think about who it can help, where to find them, and how to reach out to them. And that's it. Fede, help. Come back.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here to help you.
Cool.
I was gonna ask you well, actually mention one last thing before we end, and that is the spirit of what you're talking about, like iterating with users and getting. You just gave a masterclass in BD as well, because if I'm getting a lot of DMs, which I get overloaded with stuff, right? I can't imagine you like I cannot imagine what your DMs look like. So this is for everyone out there. You need to make the people like the person you're sending a message to and you want to call their attention. You need to make it as easy as possible for them to understand the context, right? If I have to submit a form or like go through three websites or like go back and forth and get a call with you, I'm not gonna do it. I don't have like 30 minutes to spare with every random person that DMs me on Twitter. But if you send me a Twitter handle and I can go check it out and it's a clone of myself that's really good at tweeting and pretty similar, then you'll have my attention a lot more and I'll see that, okay, you actually can build something. You already did a little bit of the work. You cared about who am I? You did your research. You're trying really hard to make it easy for me, and I appreciate that, right? I usually tend to give more time to people that value my time, and that is, I think, human nature, right? Because you need to prioritize. So I think that's great advice, and it's kind of what we're trying to do with the AI Agent Founder School. It's I don't like to call it a hackathon. People say, well, it's pretty similar, I know, but the idea is to get an MVP working in 3 weeks. Why? Because of this same reason that you explained. I like by the end of the 3 weeks, teams will have a 5 minute video explaining in detail and very well their idea, and they will have a link that they can share for people to test it out. So I don't think there's something more powerful than that, right? Just show me a 3 minute video that in the end just shares with me a link, a Telegram group, something that I can interact with, and I'm sold. It's like, okay, whoa, look at this team. They could communicate their idea very well in 3 minutes. They have a working demo already. It has a few issues, and that's fine. Like if some things fail or whatever, but if you have one happy path that really works well, and you give me that, I can see those benefits right away. Then I'm hooked. I'm gonna be following your page. I'm gonna be following you. I want the updates every time you get some new feature. I'm gonna be excited about it. So yeah, I think like this is great advice, especially to start catching those first users. Is like, well, you know your audience now. You built all this narrative, everything. Now you just sell that experience. It's like sell that experience where the user can just go try it out and see like, oh, this is really cool. Because honestly, there's so many things that people explain to me that you maybe understand it in your head, but it's not the same as going through a nice UI or a nice chat and experiencing it yourself. It's like very different. I call it kind of like the wow factor. I'm telling builders like in those 5 minutes, you need to create that wow. And then if I'm hooked and you give me a call to action, I'll go do it, right?
100%. I will also like, by the way, like feel free to slide into my DMs anytime. I will try my best to reply. And if you tell me your AI agent will help me make money, I will most definitely reply. So um, my DMs are open for demos as well.
Well, we're actually you could be a judge for the hackathon as well, Emily, next Friday. Well, we'll talk about that because your insights on everything are really great, and I want you to see the amazing projects that are being built. Pame here asked if this will be uploaded to YouTube. It will. It's on Emily's YouTube live and as well on the Mo channel. So this will be recorded. You can share with your friends. Um, I think I have nothing else. This was super complete and exactly what I expected from you, Emily. This is awesome. I think you've covered everything to get started for early projects, and it's great to see that. Well, we mentioned KOLs, and I'm telling you, all these founders, technical founders, a technical group of devs that are trying to get a product out. They really want to go super big at first and are like, how do I get 10,000 users? And I try to tell them that is not your first milestone. The first thing is like get your groupies together, your fun club, like the first 10 people that really appreciate your project, that can get it, that can actually do it. Um, I love it. Yeah, exactly. Like how to get the
Or just
first
start with
users,
your
right?
first. Like, let's just start with one. You know, it's okay.
Yeah,
One is better than zero.
total. And a very strong fan base, like even if it's small, it's very, very powerful, right? So I mean, I'm an early adopter. I love early projects. I love things that are getting started, and that's why we're doing like the founder school because we want to see more of that on mode. So like, just reach out, give me something easy to test out, and I'll do it. Same with Emily. It's like you can slide in our DMs, be concise, be direct, explain clearly, and give us a call to action that is easy to explore. You'll see that that makes wonders.
Let me know about the demo. I'd love to show up if I can.
I will. I will. Promise.
Cool.
We'll talk after this. Well, thank you very much, Emily. This was amazing. Completely, like, I think it's super useful. This is gonna live in the YouTube channel and in the AI Agent Founder School playlist, so everyone out there can learn about AI agents on the technical side, but also now marketing and how to get your first users. So I think you have everything you need to succeed. Now you just have to go and do it, right?
Yeah, just go do things.
Yeah, luckily this market and in general Web3 shows us that things move very fast. People really care about early projects, and you have a bunch of people willing to test early projects. So just go and do it. Well, with that, I'll finish today's call. Thank you very much, Emily, for joining us today. Hope to host you again in the future at some point. It's always a pleasure listening to you. I think we've learned a lot, including myself as well. So yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Fede. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, goodbye, everyone.